What is up, everybody? Welcome back with another episode of the Lava Lamb Podcast. It is your man, Ryan Motter. And before we get right into it, make sure that you go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to stay tuned for future uploads. And we got some wild things to get into. But before we do that, it's your man, Ryan Motter, a.k.a. Dollar Signet. Joined with me, as always, by the man, Jay Brand, and the man, Sava Lava. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it.
So, UFOs, again, on the agenda.
There is creepy things in the skies and the seas.
Happening right now.
Happening in real time. I do think it's interesting that we're getting a heightened
interest
and appearance while we're also getting like some disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like we're not really being told.
It almost seems like too good to be true.
Yeah,
almost.
it seems like we're kind of being duped. Like we're set up for something, and there's like a grander scheme where, I don't know if you guys ever watched the X-Files, but they redid it recently. Well, I wouldn't say they redid it. They like brought it up to speed and finished it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they finished it, spoiler alert, was basically where it was like their whole career was researching and going through like the investigation of these paranormal / like alien creature attacks and sightings and abductions and things of that nature, to find out that the entire time it was our government using the aliens as like a
scare tactic.
Or like a cover to do these experiments on people.
Okay.
So it was like, that's the perfect ploy if you think about it, because if everybody thinks that they're abducted by aliens and they come back crazy and it's actually this government lab you went to and they do all types of experiments on you or put a microchip inside you, like a Neuralink thing, if you will, and then kind of just see how you act and maybe even be a puppeteer of sorts to see what they got. And
it is interesting that like 90% of the ocean hasn't been like discovered really, and like obviously when it comes to outer space, there's a lot that we haven't discovered with that either. And like you mentioned with this like the UFOs, with the government being involved, I mean, realistically, with the technology they have today, they could probably easily create some kind of round flying machine that looks like a flying saucer that like could fly around, that could like trick people. But also, like, let's say something catastrophic did happen in the government that like people are pissed about, right?
Yeah.
One way you would get people's attention off of that is something crazy like, oh, we've found aliens, you know what I mean? Or like,
oh yeah,
even like this
ultimate distraction
for sure. And like this thing we just talked about with like the Sean Kingston thing, because it happened in 2024, I didn't hear anything about it, and I think a lot of that had to do with it was overshadowed by the election and like the Diddy thing. Like, because the Diddy thing was so big, like people are just talking about that. Like I never heard anything about that Sean Kingston thing.
Yeah, but also to be fair on that, like who's really keeping up with Sean Kingston? You know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
I guess that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Like,
had one hit.
Yeah.
He had more than that, but
So speaking of we're not being told the whole thing in flying saucers.
He said he had more than that.
yeah, like a whole lot, but
He had a couple. One with Justin Bieber. That's his best friend.
We got a clip here. This was taken in Alaska. I believe the Instagram page that this is taken from is Chaos Factory.
So
Chaos_Factory.
Real quick, before we get into this, I just want to add to like what I was just talking about. Like, let's say the government did create a spherical flying machine like that. That would explain why it's getting a government escort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So these, based on my limited aviation, I would say you're looking at F-22s or F-35s escorting it. So you're talking about top-of-the-line jets.
Oh, yeah, like military jets.
Yeah, high-end, what we would use if the fan hit right now. So let's play the footy here.
Bro, what? Dude, no way.
Hell nah, bro.
No way, bro. That's like
I mean, you've seen it look like there's a circle in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But look at all of them.
Dude, that's like the clearest
That's a whole
one.
escort.
I've never seen a video that clear before, dude.
And the way it's filmed, the angles and everything to me scream real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very spherical.
And I mean, you can hear all those jets like booming, like they're moving. Like that doesn't look like they're moving fast, but in the sky like that, they're going Mach 2, Mach 3.
They're probably real high up. That's crazy, dude. Can we see the tops of them at all? It's hard to see the tops.
I mean,
hey,
what's
shouts
that
out
sound? Listen to that.
That humming.
That's weird.
Hey, shouts out to that cameraman though, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's the
real.
clearest
They
shot
said
that I've seen.
I believe that was 7 or 8 days ago in Alaska.
Wow.
They saw that.
Which, to go back to kind of what I was talking about, like the government involvement thing, if that is a case, that's like possible. In World War II, Hitler's group of people, I don't want to say their name because I think that that's technically banned on YouTube.
Bannable.
But, they created spherical, like they were like saucer type, like flying machines. And that was back in 1945 type shit.
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean? So like if they had that technology back then, I guarantee you they could create shit like that today.
Right.
Oh, I mean, we definitely even, I think it was in 64, the Air Force the U.S. Air Force had our own, like, flying saucer, but we kind of was like, eh.
Well, I mean, we talked about it. I brought up the patent from 04 of the triangular one that tried to get brushed off as a conspiracy theory on TikTok, by the way, but...
You know, we talked a little bit
shit.
in a previous episode about, you know, your uncle's experience with that flying machine, you know, like that. And that was at, you know, a big Air Force base here.
Right, Pat.
At, you know, yeah. And that's, you know, they mentioned when the drone sightings were happening like a couple months ago, you know, people were freaking out about all these like spherical things they were seeing. They were spotted near Right Pat, and they had like shut down the base temporarily for that. So it was interesting. And there's also like talk that Right Pat, apparently people think, is like a secondary Area 51.
Oh,
like it has an Area 51 area.
Oh, I bet.
It's widely believed that Area 51 is, it is some secretive base, but it's more of like the target that they want people to think of.
And it's not actually the
And
place.
they have
I'm telling you,
more top
y'all
secret.
think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, my North Korea theory, I'm telling you, dude.
Bro. Come on.
I'm telling you, dude.
That's a fake fat kid.
Fact check correction.
I just saw a
You
video.
never really know.
Yesterday.
We really can't go there.
You know what I'm saying?
So it's
You know what I'm
really hard
saying?
to
That's
say it.
true.
Like, what
I
if it's
wouldn't-
actually a utopia and we're just being told that it's so bad no one even wants to go there?
Yeah, but
I
we
would say
see,
geographically, though. Would
unless
say no.
he's like
Yeah.
a political figure from like a different country and we're just being lied to.
I know.
But
It's a
like
stretch,
Kim
I know.
Jong-un is such a knothead, bro. And like one thing I will say though about that shit is that North Korea, man, they literally think that they're so big and bad, but they're like a fly on a wall when it comes to like the geological location,
Like the
how
size.
small they are. Right. It's like, and their people live in poverty. Like, while he sits up in a freaking like mansion type house, living like a baller, Kim Jong Un. You know, it's like, it's kind of, it's sad.
And the thing that's for me, I look at like if you're just looking, if you're checking stats, it's like the aggression they show, but not really have an air force or a navy, and every aspect of their warfare is conventional, meaning like World War II based artillery, tanks, foot soldiers. So it's like
They're outdated.
I mean, it's a known, would you say, fact amongst like World War II historians that the reason the U.S. really started to take things over beyond like the atomic bomb before this was our air superiority.
I was about to say aerial coverage.
Yeah, so I mean, once we started making, I think it was P-51 Mustangs, they could go faster and way farther on their tanks of gas and use like heavy machine guns and whatnot.
Damn.
And you could multi-suit them for different things. They had all these models, and it's once you can take the skies over, running on the ground with guns is really.
I saw something 2 days ago about, you know, the movie that came out a couple years ago with Seth Rogen and James Franco called The Interview.
Oh, yeah.
Where they go to North Korea.
Just a few years ago.
Apparently, like before that movie came out, it got leaked somehow, and like North Korea found out about it, and they were pissed.
Oh, I bet.
They leaked
And they
it.
tried to, they literally tried to stop Sony from releasing it. They ended up hacking Sony like more than once.
Wow.
And like released a bunch of movies that like Sony did not intend to have released yet. They ended up losing like $200 million of revenue off of this.
Damn.
There was a clip they showed of Obama. Like, Obama was kind of pissed that Sony had like backed down, because at first Sony was going to like take the movies out of all the theaters. They weren't going to show it in theaters. They were just going to do like a probably like movie release or whatever. But Obama like did a speech where he was talking about how like, if we give in to them, you know, what's to say that in the future, like some reporter posts an interview like or an article that pisses off a different country, and then we've got to censor ourselves because of that. He's like, we're not censoring ourselves because of these people. And because he did that, Sony came out and eventually they released it in all these theaters, and that movie did so well. That movie was huge.
Here's the thing. So, yeah, it generated the hype, but for me, I think the like silver lining for all of it for Sony and them is that made them want to broker a deal with Netflix, and that started the trend of like things coming out on Netflix. Because before it was in theaters, you could watch it on Netflix.
I remember that.
Free.
Yeah.
So it was like that kind of, in a way, sparked a lot of people to go to Netflix and cut a deal. But that's the catch.
That's the catch, is that Netflix, it wasn't free though. You had to pay for that Netflix subscription.
But Netflix had to pay them for it to be on there. So it was like Netflix then realized like, oh wow, we can be like, there is no middleman. Like, instead of making your movie have to go in theaters, we can put it on Netflix for you, where people can watch it at their leisure and not have to pay $20.
And you just get
popcorn.
paid. You just get paid for the rights being on Netflix.
For
that's smart.
Yeah.
And they're just getting paid per stream, and then you have this like hype where a whole other country's like trying to leak it and have a beef with them, and now people all jump on their Netflix accounts, stream it up.
Yep.
Same thing happened with the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight.
Yep.
And that's where
that was
broke.
Openers were good though. Openers were good.
Oh,
movie piracy and music piracy was a huge problem though, back in the day, because of like that type of shit, like where people would just illegally download it and not pay for it. So companies were losing tons of revenue, and then artists, you know, with their music, like remember LimeWire back in the day? That's how Soulja Boy got big, was he tricked people into downloading his music. He went under like Britney Spears, Beyonce type shit, you know what I mean? And like people would play it and it'd be playing Crank That. You know what I mean?
Gotta give him that though. That's pretty smart.
Genius, dude. That's genius. Anyway, let's circle back to the UFOs. I know we got off track a little bit, but
so to get into the aliens thing, there is I don't know when this was declassified, but there's a CIA document it basically was when we were, I think it's around the Cold War era, and we were like spying hard on the Russians, and everybody was doing that whole like observe each other. We found a document the Russians put out that basically states that there was an alien encounter with Russian soldiers, well, Soviets at the time, and that the craft, or once they attacked it, it emitted like a strong light, and it turned 23 of their men to stone.
I've heard about this.
So there should be the actual document on the next. There it is. It's kind of hard to read from my end.
You want to zoom in a little bit?
But I mean, it gives you the dates and times of it. You know,
zoom in a little bit more.
Military goes from a file.
There you go.
So intelligence obtained a 250-page file on the attack by a UFO on a military unit in Siberia. The file contains not only many document photographs and drawings, but also testimonies by actual participants in the events. One of the CIA representatives referred to this case as a horrific picture of revenge on part of extraterrestrial creatures, a picture that makes one blood freeze. According to the KGB material, a quiet, low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer appeared above a military unit that was conducting routine training maneuvers. For unknown reasons, somebody unexpectedly launched a surface-to-air missile and hit the UFO.
Oh, wow.
It fell to Earth not far away, and 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes emerged from it. It's stated in the testimonies by 2 soldiers who remained alive that after freeing themselves from the debris, the aliens came close together and then merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape. That object began to buzz and hiss sharply, then became brilliant white. In a few seconds, the spheres
Grew much bigger
and exploded by flaring up with an extremely bright light. At that very instant, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomenon turned into stone poles. Only 2 soldiers who stood in the shade and were less exposed to the luminous explosion survived.
Wow, dude.
So they came across the Power Rangers. You said 5 people came out with big ass black eyes and merged into one flying saucer. They became Mechazoid, bro. They just freaking merged into one.
Balthazar.
That's actually freaking crazy. They got Medusa'd.
The KGB report, which is like your Russian mob CIA type deal, goes on to say that the remains of the UFO and the petrified soldiers were transferred to a secret scientific research institution near Moscow. Specialists assume that a source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms.
So, another theory that I just kind of thought of. So, like, I am big personally on believing that, like, the Egyptian and like the Greek gods and Roman gods, I think that they existed, but they may not have been like what we all
think they
thought
are.
they were. Like they were like fallen angels, like that we mentioned in like the Book of Enoch, like the Watchers and like these fallen angels that were cast down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's why like in different parts of the world, you see a similar god that went under a different name that had very similar abilities, could do the same stuff, but just under a different name because to a different part of the world, they were known by something else. And I also think that, like I mentioned before, that if you were like one of those like fallen angels, you know what I mean, and you're trying to like avoid detection from like, you know, maybe God or somebody else, like that's like trying to like stop you from doing what you're doing, you're going to go under a fake name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like all these other parts of the world know you as something else. And like those being like, the Romans saw them as like Zeus was Jupiter, the planets, like the cosmic beings, you know what I mean? So like those would technically, aliens would be cosmic beings. And like they came and like turned these people to stone. The Gorgons in Greek mythology were like these beings that could turn people to stone. You know what I mean? Like Medusa was a Gorgon.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes you wonder like what the hell they encountered. You know what I mean?
Weird stuff, man.
I think the interesting thing is how they found recently the terracotta army in China. So it kind of makes you wonder, like maybe
that was
something
a while ago, wasn't it?
They all tried to defend or attack against something, and they just were turned to stone.
Damn,
another interesting thing, because this happened in Russia. Because this happened in Russia, another thing I wrote down here was, you know, and a lot of people like they know about this, but we don't really talk much about it. But Chernobyl, the most radioactive place in the world, is located in Russia, and it's like a lake area that was infected with a nuclear like material and shit. So you just have to wonder, all the creatures that are living around that, what the hell has happened to them?
Mm-hmm.
How deformed are they? How fucked up looking are they? You know what I mean?
Kind of don't want to find that out,
right?
But it just makes you wonder, and like with the kind of like social media we have out today. I know that, like, we're not really following people in Russia, but, like, you would think that, like, if there was some crazy-ass shit, somebody'd get a picture of it and be like, yo, what the fuck is that?
So to kind of wrap this up, because we kind of go on UFOs.
I wanted to share one more thing about UFOs, because since we're on the topic still, and we're talking about, like, experiences that people have witnessed and stuff, there was something that I came across not too long ago about the aerial school UFO incident. So I don't have like too much pulled up on this. I just have a little article on my phone to kind of explain what it is, to give you an idea of how crazy this is. So on September 16th, 1994, there was a UFO sighting outside of Ruo, Zimbabwe. 62 pupils at the aerial school aged between 6 and 12 said that they saw one or more silver craft descend from the sky and land on a field near their school. Some of the children claimed that one or more creatures dressed in all black approached and telepathically communicated to them a message with an environmental theme, frightening them and causing them to cry. But basically, like, all these kids, it happened like at the same time that a lot of people reported like a meteor crash in the area. And like these kids were all like these investigators came and like questioned all these kids, and obviously kids have like a lot more, you know, not stable thoughts, so like it's not going to be exactly the same, like their stories, right? But everyone was very similar in what they described, that like, because when you're talking about kids this young, right, they're going to make some crazy shit up if it's not real, you know what I mean? So like the fact that they were all so similar to what they experienced, there was like 50 people here, dude, like over 50 people. All these kids were like explaining the same thing basically. And like,
it's hard to discount that.
That's interesting that you mentioned that they were in black suits. So in, you know, in Ghost Rider, this is just an example. It's a movie, for a lot of people have probably seen it, with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the movie, he's approached by a man in a black suit, and that's the devil. Offers him a deal, basically, which is, I mean, he gave up his soul to try to save his dad or something.
Well, it's like, it's more of like a bodysuit, like a skin tight, like bodysuit that they said that they were in.
It's not like an actual black suit.
Yeah, like a bodysuit, like a space suit,
I mean, I was
basically.
going to say that what's interesting about that, though, is that, like, technically speaking, the devil is also a fallen angel, which means he is a divine being, which means he is a cosmic being. You know what I mean? So for him to appear in a black suit just makes you wonder who else is out here. And what makes you wonder, with them being like these kind of beings, realistically, how many of them can alter their appearance?
Yeah.
People that you interact with throughout your life, at some point, we could have all interacted with somebody that was actually an angel or a divine being. Or
all I'm going to say to wrap up this topic, I'll wrap it up for you.
Got one more video.
One more video on it?
Yeah.
Go ahead. All I'm going to say is, like, this is all for entertainment purposes only. We're all happy.
It's all speculation, but it doesn't mean that we can't.
All I know is that the beams are getting bluer.
But, hey, no, real quick, though, before you start.
The beams are getting bluer, y'all. That's all I know.
Before you start convincing people, though, that, like, we're just, like, making shit up, though. Like, that was an actual article.
Yeah.
Like an actual document.
It's a declassified
right.
CIA document.
Right.
Yep.
So, like, we're not just pulling shit out of nowhere. Like that Sean Kingston story, that's legit. Like, but, like, what we're saying is like, our opinions on shit is, like, it's up to you to decide what you wanted to believe. But, you know, we're entitled to our own opinions. And, I mean, personally, I think that if you don't believe that there could be some kind of life out there in other planets, and if the possibility that there is, like, multiverses or alternate realities, you know what I mean? I think it's definitely possible that there could be life on another planet. And because it's not just like, we're just talking about, when you think about like Earth, Jupiter, Mars, that's just the solar system. That's just our solar system. There's multiple fucking, you know what I mean? There's multiple systems out there in space.
Yeah.
And there's different planets in different areas. Like,
crazy.
It's very possible, because we don't have the ability to go out to some of these crazy places and go see for ourselves. So without knowing, I mean, we're kind of just stuck here. But at the same time, it makes you wonder, like, if God created us and we were created here on this planet, did he intend for us to ever be able to figure out that there was planets elsewhere? You know what I mean? It's like,
we did it, so
we did do it
eventually.
Anyway, what you got for us, Jay Brian? What you got for us?
To kind of, like, this could be another dimensional creature. This could just be something we haven't discovered. But this is basically just a remote, like, submarine that they use to check on, like, oil wells down in the ocean floor. And this is kind of an older video, but it came across this, like, shapeshifter, essentially. And, I mean, we'll leave it up. It's for entertainment purposes, so we'll leave you guys up to see what you think here. But we'll roll it and let you observe.
You're missing it, Alla.
It's frozen.
And then just totally shapes, just different shape altogether now.
That's the Death Star, bro.
See, that last motion that it just did, that last little fly away, that made me think it was AI. That looked a little AI-ish at the end there.
Someone said the reason that happened is because the propulsion system of the ROV, like, since it's really strong and pushing water current, it like they didn't know what was coming towards them, so they started to move the rover away.
Okay.
And it kind of pushed it off.
That makes sense.
But I mean, you can clearly see it holds this like symbol of a shape.
I saw that. That was weird.
Like a
Dollar, you missed that part.
Go
back a little bit. You can keep it muted. Keep it muted, but just go back. Like, keep going to like more towards the beginning. Yeah, right there.
Like right there, dude. Like that's what it started out as.
You know what that kind of looks like? Like it's obviously not, but like in Captain America, Hail Hydra. Doesn't that kind of look like the Hail Hydra?
I don't know. The what?
Like, so in Captain America, right? Like the movies, my Marvel. You know what I'm talking about? The superhero Captain America.
Yeah.
So basically, he's in World War II fighting, but they're not called the like, you know what I mean? They go under some other name, and it's still Germany, but like instead of saying Hail, you know who, they say Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
And that's like their symbol is like this like Hydra-looking creature.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's just
still pretty crazy.
That's
though.
Such a weird transformation, and then it almost looks like it turns into this little like ghost towards the end with like these beams of light. And I've also read someone said that it could possibly be like a vampire squid.
So,
but it's like this first picture that changes that for me.
See, but that just goes to show that like we don't if it is a squid, like we don't know what what all it entails.
What position it's in, like because squids move so weird. Like if he's like in the position of about to like, you know,
play it, and that creeps me out, bro.
Go towards the end a little bit again.
Like he just like turns
into like right there,
ball, and then it's just like
wait, go back, keep going back. See, look right there. So like
that's why I was saying that he almost like when he started turning into a ball, he almost looked like the Death Star from Star Wars, bro. Like
he's got like
a robot.
It's got like lights, bro. It looks like LED strips on it. He looks like a robot.
Like it looks electronic.
Its bioluminescence is really weird.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, like this. Kind of looks like a basketball with like a tail.
Like that's weird, bro.
That's where I'm saying it's like it looks robotic.
You can just mute that one. That way the music's not playing every time.
Look at the glowing eye. It could just be like a light reflection, you know what I mean?
I guess that's true too.
From the camera lens, you know what I mean? And like look, there's like a light shining like
I did see it flicker when it went down, so maybe it is a reflection
from the light.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing to think about though, like we mentioned with like 90% of the ocean not being discovered, like you know, I personally believe the megalodon could still exist.
Mm-hmm.
We found proof of like their teeth and shit, like so we know that they did exist at one point. One of the problems with the megalodon though was that they were carnivorous, so without other like megalodons to eat on or other great whites to feast on, you know what I mean, they would die out because they wouldn't have food.
They'd be too big. They can't.
Because they were eating other megalodons like to survive. That's how they survived.
They were cannibals?
They were cannibalistic. That's what I meant to say. Not carnivore. I guess they were still carnivores because
but cannibals.
But
I didn't know they were cannibals.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So they used to eat a bunch of like great whites and then other megalodons. So that's kind of why they think that they started to die out. But I think too with it being so 90% of the ocean not being discovered, that's a lot of depth that we can't go to.
Yeah.
I think too that like the Kraken could possibly exist, the giant squid, you know what I mean?
Cthulhu.
Yeah. And you know, Cthulhu, that's it's a theory. There's also, Loch Ness, which isn't necessarily in the ocean, but like it's still a creature in the waters.
Still something that hasn't been debunked yet.
And technically in the Bible, this one's the craziest technically if you think about it because it's mentioned in the Bible. They do mention the Leviathan, which if you've ever seen what a Leviathan is, it's like a giant water dragon, bro.
Yeah. Scary.
Crazy shit.
Scary.
Bro.
Yeah. You also got to worry about Moby Dick and Jared from Subway.
Jared from Subway. Because he gets out this year from prison, so watch out. Hide your kids, hide your wife.
Maybe that was him.
Oh.
He got his haircut.
He was in
Jared's gone to Subway with a haircut, diddling on them kills.
Hell yeah.
Shit. Yeah, he was wild for that. But I don't want to talk about Jared from Subway.
Yeah, fuck
No,
that
fuck
motherfucker.
Jared.
Bro.
Hell no.
What are you, a cop?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, Jared.
But I just think it's interesting. I mean, we don't even know what's out there.
All I know, man, is
They say that we know,
the
but-
beams are getting bluer.
You know, when I was younger, though, I used to want to be a marine biologist. I think that it would be cool someday if we've got the money and we've got the funds to be able to do it. If we, like, you know, got some equipment and we went and explored ourselves in certain areas. You know, obviously, we're not going to go, like, do some life risking type shit, but, like, I would like to go see some shit myself. And, you know, another crazy place I would love to go see, because one of these episodes, I'm going to do a whole thing on it, but we're going to talk about the Bermuda Triangle. Because there was some crazy shit with the Bermuda Triangle, bro. People be disappearing and shit, ending up in other areas. Like, they fly through it, and then they end up in, like, Florida type shit. Like,
one thing that I want to talk about is the moon. I really want to get in some deepness with the moon, bro. I'm telling you, like,
that. I think we should
there's
also
some weird things going on, man.
If we do a segment on that, we should go through, honestly, all the planets.
All I'm gonna say, I'm gonna make sure we got some info on this for the next time. But, like, all I'm gonna say is the moon hasn't always been there, dude. Like, it's weird.
Well,
And the amount of coincidences that the moon causes is not normal.
They say that the
universe.
moon and the ocean, like, so it's like push and pull. Like, the moon is, like, kind of responsible for how the ocean's waves, like,
tides.
Yeah, for real, how they, like, flow.
I want to get into it, but I want to save it at the same time because I got some thoughts on it, man.
We'll do a moon-sode.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That's why I'm saying we should do, like, low key. If we're gonna do that, we should go through
Maroon moon,
because it doesn't have to. It obviously wouldn't. It obviously wouldn't all be one episode, but, like, we could do, like, multiple episodes where we've got, like, one episode's about the moon. We could do another episode where we're going into, like, the other planets, because all of it low key is interesting, and it's kind of trippy that, like, this is, like, the world we live in, but we really only know about this one planet. You know what I mean?
Stay tuned for news on the moon.
So, yeah, we'll stay tuned on that. The one thing I will say is the full moon affects things. And recently on a full moon, I found out my cat does some weird stuff. We've talked about BJ before. I mean, he stole Roku remotes and all this stuff.
I think we got a clip.
He is a weird cat, bro. I'm telling you, anybody who's had cats, they kind of already know. This guy, he just finds things. Like, I've shown Sava before. I mean, he'll take, like, a tech deck, and
he'll do kickflips,
He'll do
bro.
a kickflip, bro.
He really will.
He'll do make twists.
Yeah.
And I mean, he'll find, like, anything. Like,
you got that clip pulled up?
He tries to emulate people. Should say, like, weird cat video. And I mean, the guy, like, if you're writing something with a pen and you walk away.
Did we get a picture last week of I'm sorry, I just realized what I just did, but I just started thinking when you mentioned the cat video. Remember, last week when freaking what's her face was like this?
Oh yeah, I took that picture.
She's
picture.
like, hey.
Hold on, let me see.
She's like, stop. Not so fast, Joe. I'm just real comfy on the couch right now. She was straight chilling.
She's just like, yeah,
with the foot, like, straight up. Like, question, brother.
I want to see this weirdness of this.
So this dude is totally weird. We'll try to find this video for you. That's another what the fuck? Yeah. We can go into that if you want, and we can go to the cat after, because it's already, the cat's out of the bag on this.
That man's using his man's.
All right. So we'll start on this one.
Nah,
So
we're doing the reaction of the week.
We'll do the reaction of the week, and we'll go. All right. This is top tier shit. So start from the beginning. So to set this up, I get awoken at like 12, 1 a.m., whatever it was. All these noises are in the kitchen. And I come out, and this dude has found, like, a green clip, and he keeps putting it in the water bowl and then, like, just taking it away. And this is him.
There's the clip.
Yep. Just making sure you got it wet. That's me, tired as fuck.
Just ran off with
takes
it.
off.
So you're saying that he woke you up, dropped the wet clip on you?
Because he kept making noise and clunking around in there, and I come in, I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, watch. And like takes the clip over to the water bowl, drops it in there, stares at it, like drinks a little water, takes it out and leaves. And I'm just like, cool, bro, I'm gonna go back to bed now. Like,
I think he was just trying to show you a trick.
Yeah.
I think he was like, dude, you gotta check this out, man.
He's like, dude, I know you're sleeping, but come on, dude.
Yeah.
I thought of a way to purify our water with garden clips.
I figured it out, dude. All right.
so cats are straight weirdos.
Yeah. They're interesting, man.
I mean, he's an all black kitty, and they say those are like more spiritually endowed than the rest of the kitties.
I believe that,
And
bro.
he's just weird like that. Like, I mean, he'll
I
corner
honestly-
ghosts in the middle of the night and start meowing at him and stuff, and be like in the corner freaking out. And I'm like, what's going on?
Because of Cosmo, my parents' cat, who's also all black like that. He is also like he's a little different, dude.
Yeah.
But he is so majestic and like he's big and like
Yep.
he'll be sitting like on my parents' grill, just like looking out over the freaking backyard, and I swear he looks like Batman, dude. He's just got his ears up,
Yep.
and he's just like, "You have failed this city."
He is the Dark Knight.
I know you're right.
So we do have a reaction clip of the week here. We kind of gave that. We killed the opening here. So essentially, this is trust your friends. Maybe.
Hey, low key, bro, you look better
Just
with
wait.
the cut.
Oh my God, dude. I wasn't ready for that.
Look, he does it straight down the middle, and then he's all like, the best, the best, the best.
Everyone, pull.
No,
His
dude.
reaction, bro, it goes to rage.
He punched him. He straight decked him, dude. That's freaking crazy, dude.
Man, I would knock someone out. I
Good thing
would
it
say
grows
that.
back.
I honestly though, he kind of looked cool.
Yeah, I was gonna
He
say.
kind of did.
And like he looked less like Ron Jeremy with it cut down the middle.
How someone could do that to you in your sleep, though? You know that guy parties too much and like passed out on that.
He got
couch.
party fouled.
Yeah, they probably do more than just that to dude. He's probably always that one passing. Everybody always knows. Some of you watch.
You're lucky, Dalla. You're lucky we're not like that, Dalla.
What happened?
Oh, you'd be the first one out at every party.
Why is
We'd
that?
be like the best, the best. It'd be Dollar. It'd be like, the best, the best.
I just now got it because I fall asleep sometimes. But not
Yeah, only sometimes.
in Fortnite, you know. Dollar, the storm's coming.
Midstream.
Storm's coming, Dollar.
And he'll be like this. He'll have the controller in his hand still. He'll be like,
Remember that time I was still moving? Remember I was like just running
know we were
against the wall?
playing.
nah, dude, it's so funny, bro. He'll like wake up. He'll like wake up and do an emote real quick, and then he'll go back to sleep. He'll be like,
That's how you know
his
you're
guy's
playing.
just starting. He's like dribbling a basketball the whole time. Like,
Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
crazy. But
Ain't
yeah,
it?
that's the Lava Land podcast for you guys.
We appreciate everybody that tuned in. We hope you enjoyed the content. Make sure that you go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to stay tuned for future uploads. And if you haven't checked out the other episodes, make sure you go show them some love and comment to let us know what you guys have been thinking. Without further ado, we appreciate you, and we will see you in part 2. Deuce.
Bye, Betties.